Coming up, we're going to talk about ways to use your points with RCI. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined in the studio this week by my good friends, Sue Saunders from DVC Resale Market.
Hey, Pete.
And Kerri McPherson from DVC Rental Store.
Hi, everybody.
And, of course, senior editor of DVC Fan, Paul Krieger, along with his lovely wife, Amy.
Hello.
And Fiasco.
Welcome home.
And hope your week is off to a good start. We're kind of doing a last minute change in the shows that we're recording today. And that's thanks to Sue, who happened to, just as an aside, mention her experience using her DVC points to book RCI. And I've always felt that RCI was kind of a waste. And then she was telling me some of the things that she's been able to do with RCI points. And I was fascinated. But before we get to that, because I keep forgetting to do this, our show is brought to you by the World of DVC companies, which include DVCResaleMarket.com if you're interested in purchasing a resale contract or selling your contract and upgrading to a bigger one. DVCRentalStore.com if you have points you'd like to rent out, or if you're interested in DVC and maybe you want to rent some points to try it before you buy it, that's a great place to start. And MoneraFinancial.com, who will finance the purchase of your DVC resale contract. Links to all of them in the show notes right below this in the description. Okay, so like I was saying, Sue, you were telling me about some of the experiences you've had and ways you've used your points. And like, okay, the one that really got me was that you stayed at the Manhattan Club.
Mm-hmm. New York City.
In New York City using your points. And I didn't even know that was an option.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of different places you can stay with RCI. And in some you have to exchange for a full week. Others you can exchange for just a couple of nights if you'd like. Manhattan Club was a full week, and it's more of a studio that you're staying in with a minimal type kitchenette to it, but right in the heart of the city. Couldn't be any better. And being able to stay there and have your accommodations paid for was fantastic. But we've also used our points for other areas. We took a road trip through the Yellowstone National Park and started in South Dakota, ended up in Utah, and we spent a couple of nights at Snowbird in Utah, which was beautiful. We had this one-bedroom, luxurious room with a hot tub on the balcony on the 11th floor, facing the mountain. I mean, it was just gorgeous. We've stayed at Smuggler's Notch up north in New England, and a couple of years ago went to St. Martin. And for 120 points per the week, we took a one bedroom, and for 220 points for the week, we took a two bedroom that was right oceanfront at Little Divvy Bay. And it was fantastic.
Wow. See, I just always went with, RCI. Yeah. So you're talking about 120 points for a week.
For a week.
Ocean view, too.
Yeah.
Oceanfront, yeah.
And how many points was it at the Manhattan Club?
Manhattan Club was 160 for the week.
For a week.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And Manhattan Club, the address for anybody from the Northeast that knows New York, 200 West 56th Street.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice neighborhood.
Yep.
Now it's on the west side, but still a lovely neighborhood.
Convenient.
And that's not far from Central Park.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm I'm like, okay, I got some points to burn right now, and I'm Broadway's coming back to New
Yeah.
York
Yeah.
Right.
next month, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But so talk to me too about that exchange process. How does that work?
Okay. The exchange process is pretty easy. If you go online to your member account and then go under Plan a Vacation and select RCI, it's going to bring you straight to the RCI platform. And you can take a look at availability, put your dates in, an area you're looking for. And that's key. You have to be flexible. You can't just say, I want to go to this one place during this 1 week because it may not be available. So I searched for availability, and in New York, there were a few. Besides the Manhattan Club, there were a few Hiltons that you could stay at as well with RCI points. So it's once you find a place you want, then you just reserve it, just like you would with our DVC. You reserve it, and they confirm it, and they send you a confirmation saying that they're using your points, and they give you a confirmation number. The other thing that you need to look at is if there are any fees, additional fees. Right now, they've waived their $95 booking fee, but look on the tab for that resort where it says additional fees, and make sure there might be a fee for parking, which there was at the Manhattan Club.
Anywhere in Manhattan is
Yep.
going to be a fee for
Yep.
parking.
So there may be a fee for parking, there may be a fee for housekeeping on there, but all the fees are listed so you know exactly what's coming out of pocket. It's very easy to do.
I'm fascinated.
I'm extremely interested in this because like you, Pete, like whenever I heard RCI, I'm like, yeah, not a good bang for your buck, forget about it. But hearing these point values that you got for the week, I'm just like, oh.
Well, I think we're accustomed to like using our points for a cruise through. We can only use direct points for that anyway, and there's no restriction on using resale points for this, right? So, but like if you wanted to do a cruise, first of all, it's a terrible deal to use your points for a cruise through Disney Vacation Club. We tell everybody, rent your points out, use that money to pay for your cruise. That's through dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Because I own everything. We just did a show with Ruben from Moving to Orlando. He's one of the realtors that worked for me with Moving to Orlando. When I'm not acquiring DVC contracts, I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur. But we tell everybody those are usually bad deals. Bad deals. Don't do those direct things. So I think I just kind of, and I did when I first joined. I looked at RC. I'm like, I don't know. This looks kind of crappy. But you're talking about some places. It's like, okay, no, those are actually pretty nice.
Your value with DVC points, the value is in staying at a Disney Vacation Club resort or RCI. That's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck with the DVC points. I mean, it really isn't that expensive. You'll find that most one bedrooms in RCI are going to cost less than a one bedroom in low season with our DVC at World.
Oh, and the point miser back there.
Yeah. My ears just perked up when I heard that.
Like...
And I want to ask you a question because I assume you can go to the website of where you're going to stay, right, and read reviews and especially now in 2021, they have to have a nice website and the accommodations and whatnot. So, did you feel like you kind of knew what you were getting into with the resort?
Yeah, that's a good question. And really, RCI's platform is pretty good. Their site's pretty good. So when you call up a resort, you can look if it's an all-inclusive, and if it is all-inclusive, do you have to buy the all-inclusive component to it? You can see what's around there, what the closest airport is, what they have for amenities, and you can also read reviews right there. But then you can take that resort, Google it, and then look at like TripAdvisor and see what people have said about it. So you do get a good sense for things. I mean, there are a lot of places if you want to go to Costa Rica, tons of places in Costa Rica, in Mexico as well. A lot are all inclusive, but again, some of them you have to buy that inclusivity package for it. But I know one of my friends had used hers to stay in Tuscany in Italy, and stayed a week in Italy by using the RCI points and loved it.
Oh, you need to stop now.
Wow.
I mean, it is not only
Now you're just
RCI
annoying me.
domestic, but it's RCI international as well.
Wow.
Yeah, because like I said,
So I'll play-
Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I'm gonna play the devil advocate's role here, in that I still in who I am and looking at the numbers of Disney Vacation Club, I always still view RCI as like that last resort. Like if you forgot that your points are expiring, or if you have to unload these points rather quickly. As we were discussing here, I pulled up the Manhattan Club. I looked at a week in the middle of the summer, and I can get a week for around $1,100–1,200. Now, if you look at renting your points through like DVC Rental Store, the least you could get for that amount of points that we were discussing earlier, I think it was 120 points, is around $2,300. So at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your points. Do with it as you please. For some people, exchanging to RCI or doing the cruise swap or all of those things, they just say, hey, it's convenient, and so it's more worthwhile. But I always just like to emphasize, like, make sure you do the math, make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck on these points, because that's always something to consider in the process.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. But again, the nice thing is that RCI does offer our members some alternatives. So as people start, their kids start getting older, and mom and dad would like to go on a vacation here or there for whether it's a weekend or a week, but they really don't want to come back down to Disney without the kids because the kids will hate them. They can use points for RCI, and they can use them in other areas. I know a lot of people have just been afraid to use them, or they've thought of RCI as not great properties, but you look at the level of the property as well. They have the gold crown, and if you stick into that level, you'll find some really great resorts out there.
Yeah, it's the other ones that, like, am I gonna live if I go?
Right.
You know, am I gonna go in the room? There's gonna be a chalk outline of a hooker. You know, some of them I look at and I'm like,
We get a lot of members asking about RCI, and I'm really glad we've done this show finally, because we personally don't have a lot of experience with it. But I do think one of the benefits is, especially since there's so many people right now, we have a lot of international members that have points and they have no way to use them at the Disney resorts. If you can roll into RCI, I think the cutoff is 45 days before your points expire. That extends your points for 2 years.
Yep.
So you get 2 more years to find something, find somewhere through RCI to use those points. So that is going to help a lot of people who are, in a position where they might lose their points with DVC.
And we hear now more than ever of people that have done that as a result of the past year, or like Amy said, international members. So a lot of people have already traded their points into RCI and are now beginning to look around and see what they can do with them. So for them, it's good to hear that there's some amazing options out there for them to use those.
and I guess since we can book RCI, I'm guessing RCI members can book Disney Vacation Club
Into Disney, yes.
but it's got to cost them a lot. Like,
I don't know what the exchange is for that, but I know that I've run into people over at Saratoga Springs when I've stayed there who have exchanged through RCI.
That's what I was going to say too, is I've met a few members who've contemplated buying into DVC and then said, because I have this other timeshare, so we exchange into Saratoga Springs is typically the best way for them to use kind of that exchange. Any other resort takes up either a lot of their points or cash or however they're trading it. Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Amy.
So from everything we've seen in the group, it's not that RCI members can kind of go in and pick and choose what they want. I don't know exactly how DVC does it, but they put out certain resorts, and the most common ones that are seen on the RCI exchange for non-DVC members are 1-bedrooms of Saratoga and 1-bedrooms at Old Key West. You don't see Grand Floridian and Beach Club and all those ending up on the RCI exchange. It's usually some of the lesser booked things, like those 1-bedrooms at those easier, those larger resorts.
Yep.
See, I'm intrigued now. I'm intrigued. I'm going back and forth on. I want to do something for my birthday in December, and I'm going back and forth on a trip to Europe, assuming, or there's a 7-night sailing on the Fantasy. And I'm just like, so I've been going back and forth on what I want to do, and now you're throwing this in the mix. And I'm like, Tuscany.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to be in Tuscany in December. I mean, Italy's not bad in the winter, but yeah. So it's like, okay, now I got to look at this. I got to check this out. You've really given me something, because like I said, I just kind of, I mean, when I first joined, I looked at some of this stuff. I'm like, no. But then, I would hear people say, oh, no, don't do RCI. So I just kind of blew it off. But when we were having this discussion before, I'm like, okay, maybe this deserves, because, I mean, you're certainly no neophyte when it comes to Disney Vacation Club and using your points. So I'm like, okay, well, if you've had these experiences, you're not just an experienced DVC member, but you were a DVC guide, and now working for a DVC resale market. That comes with some gravitas. She's saying there are some good experiences to be had. Then I'm willing to give this a second look. And I think maybe I need to book something, for you, to cover it and to tell you about the experience. It's quite annoying that I have to do these things for you, but I love you, and I will make that sacrifice.
I will bite the bullet and film it for you if you need me to.
Oh, I see. See, this is how he does vacations. He like gloms on other people's.
It's just another way to stretch your points, to use them if you think you might lose them, or like Amy's point is so great about 2 years.
Right.
Once they're in RCI, they're not retractable. So you do have to kind of make sure that you are going to make that commitment. But it is you don't want to lose your points.
Right.
It's a great alternative.
Yep.
Well, let the games begin. Let the games begin. That's all I can say. Well, thank you, Sue, for enlightening us.
You're welcome.
On your experiences with RCI. And if you've had any experiences using your points for RCI, please share them in the comments down below. While you're down there, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button for us. That helps us out with YouTube. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Why do I never, ever say that? I never say that. Well, then again, I also forget to do the plug for our sponsor. It's really sad what's happening to me. It really is. The older I get, pretty soon you're going to tune in. I'll just be chewing on the table.
On next week's episode.
On next week's episode.
Subscribe to see that.
We'll do a whole new series. Disney Dementia. All right, folks. Thanks for being with us. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next week with another episode of The DVC Show. Have a great one.